In today's show, the Blazers beat a good team on the road. They win their second consecutive game that was decided in crunch time. Who are these freaking guys? Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You listen to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making the show your first listen every single day. It's free on all platforms, 5 days a week, coming at you every single weekday, Monday through Friday. So why don't you make it a part of your daily routine? Make it your first listen every single day. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, the Blazers got their best win of the season, or something darn close to it. What a night. They beat the Memphis Grizzlies 122-112. We're going to talk about this game basically the entire show. This one deserves the full breath. We'll go fastest recap in the West to begin this bad boy. We'll talk about the final 3 minutes, which were a roller coaster. What a bizarre and fun end to this one. Blazers snapped an 8-game road losing streak. They had not won a game on the road since December. Hadn't been a good team on the road since the beginning of December. It has been a minute. And then to close the show, we'll talk about what this team says about where they are heading into the trade deadline. But before we get into all of that, let's do what we do. Fastest recap in the West. Blazers win in Memphis, 122-112. Portland trailed 17-5 right out of the gates. It felt like it was going to be one of those nights, but clawed back. They were down 32-26 after one. Jerami had 11-5-4 in the first quarter, and Jusuf Nurkic played just 2 minutes before signaling that he needed to leave the game. The Blazers were on offensive possession. Nurk was on the opposite side of the floor from the ball, just outside the key, just outside the paint rather, and he like reached down to his calf that has been bothering him, clearly not right. Kind of gingerly moved like he was going to try to get a rebound, but signaled to the bench like, hey, I need to come out. Put his hand up. I don't think Chauncey Billups saw him right away because he was like not in the action. And then Nurk had to commit an intentional foul to get himself out, and the Blazers went to Drew Eubanks. Nurk played 2.5 minutes. The Blazers down 17-5 to begin this game. Ja Morant has 11-5-4. Looks like he's going to go absolutely bonkers to begin this one. But they're only down 6, and it's like, hey, that could have been worse. And it kind of felt like that the whole game. At halftime, they cut a 6-point deficit to 5, down 57-52 at the break. Jerami Grant had 18 in the first half, and it's like, Dame's playing really well. Jerami Grant's playing really well. They're only down 5 despite missing the big fella. They might make this game interesting. At least, if nothing else, you can't say they played poorly because they're playing really tough. The problem is, with about 7.5 minutes left in the second quarter, Jerami Grant got fouled pretty hard by Danny Green, Carolina legend, and went down hard. Like, it was a hard foul. I don't think it was malicious or like it rose to a flagrant or anything like that from my view, but it was a serious foul, and he got whacked in the head, and he came down hard and hit his head on the ground. He got slow to get up, kind of looked like he was, kind of looked like he hit his head pretty hard when he was at the free throw line, the way he was breathing and putting his hands on his hips, and kind of just the way his facial expression looked. He played the final 7 minutes and 26 seconds of the second quarter, and then he was ruled out at halftime. Didn't come back for the second half. It was pretty clear to me that he had a concussion and he didn't come out. Jabari Walker started the second half, played the first opening 6 minutes. The Blazers training staff just didn't say anything. In fact, Chris Haynes of Turner Sports, or Bleacher Report, he works for both, reported that Jerami Grant, according to sources, was being evaluated for concussion protocol. Yeah. Why is Haynes having to like text Jerami Grant's agent or whatever? He hit it, he whacked his head and didn't start the second half. What is the medical staff and PR staff doing? Be up front when someone suffers head trauma. He played 7 minutes after whacking his head. That's weird behavior. Regardless, Jerami Grant doesn't play the second half. I found that to be exceedingly strange. Good on Chris Haynes for breaking the news. But the Blazers, Now down without Jusuf Nurkic, without Jerami Grant, they got 9 dudes, 9 healthy bodies. They stay in the game, down 90-84 after 3, because Damian Lillard went nuts to keep them in the game in the third quarter. In the third alone, Damian Lillard had 17 points and 5 assists. He was outrageous in the third quarter to keep them in it. Including down 60-67, Lillard gets fouled. They call a flagrant foul on Zaire Williams for standing under Lillard, like crowding his landing zone. He gets a flagrant free throw, comes back, they inbound the ball, he scores again from down. They come across midcourt, down 7. They leave, tie ball game, tied at 67. Dame had all 7 of them. They just hung around, and then they took over in the fourth. They outscored Memphis 38-22 in the fourth quarter, held on in a chaotic final 3 minutes that we'll talk about later in the show, and they win 122-112. That's your fastest recap in the West. Slower recap than normal, to be fair. Damian Lillard finishes with 42 points, 8 boards, and 10 assists in just 2 turnovers. He played 40 minutes, was 11 of 22 from the floor, 5 of 13 from three-point range, and he had made 15 of 16 free throws. Anthony Simons, I thought Ant was really good in this game. Really good in this game. He finished with 26 points at 2 boards, 4 assists. He was 10 of 18 from the floor, 3 of 7 from the free throw line. Josh Hart, incredible Josh Hart game. 32 minutes, scoreless in 32 minutes, 2 rebounds, 0 for 4. I thought Josh Hart played well. I thought he played legitimately well. Like I said, Jerami Grant, 18 all in the first half. Drew Eubanks, 11 points, 11 boards, 3 assists, and a block shot off the bench. Drew, they do not win this game without the Shaq of Troutdale. I mean, it was Shaqnosis out there. Shaedon Sharpe had 9, and Gary Payton had about the best 7.4 rebound performance you could have. He was fantastic. He played 29 minutes, finished a plus 13. They outscored, Gary Payton's minutes outscored, in his 30 minutes outscored Memphis by 13 points. He was the swing player in this game. He was fantastic. Dame carries him, right? Like Dame carries him, but I thought we'll talk about this a little later in the show. Like I thought Gary Payton was excellent in this one. On the other side, Ja Morant finished with 32 points, 9 boards, and 12 assists. At one point in the third quarter, Ja Morant had a triple-double. He lost a rebound somewhere before the official box score came out. He had a 10th rebound at one point. It went away. I don't know when it went away, but he had, with like 4 minutes left in the third, he had a triple-double. And then when the final box score came out, he only had 9 boards. But he was really good. Desmond Bane had 17, 18 from Jaren Jackson Jr., 10 from Santi Aldama off the bench. I don't really know why Steven Adams was not available in this game. I don't know why Xavier Tillman played so much. He's one of the players that I thought the Blazers should have drafted in the second round. He's fine. He's like a okay bench big. He's like probably a below average bench big. He played 28 minutes in this game. Brandon Clark played 17. Very, very weird. Very weird Memphis decisions. I don't think Xavier Tillman was bad necessarily. His box score is kind of fun, except for he doesn't score, but it's like weird. Memphis was weird, and they were weird down the stretch. And the Blazers took advantage of this team. This was, for me, the best win of the season is the win in Phoenix when Jerami Grant hits a buzzer beater, because it was like so fun and has like that moment, right? But if that wasn't the win of the year, this was. You go into Memphis. They've been struggling. They've lost 6 of 7 now after losing to Portland. Like they're on a dip, right? Every team goes through it. They're in a dip right now. They're not playing very well. But like to go into Memphis where they're 32-18, they seemingly have righted the ship. They've come off a really brutal road trip, gotten a win. It's like, okay, they're back making it happen. And, Desmond Bane in the lineup. He's been in and out. Desmond Bane back in the lineup. NCAA champion Danny Green back in the lineup for trade purposes. It seems pretty clear. Like, this was a great win for Portland. You just like on its face, you go into Memphis and win this game. It's a great win. You throw in the fact that Nurk played 2.5 minutes, like, a couple trips up and down the floor, and that Jerami Grant didn't play in the final 2 quarters, and that you were playing Trenton Watford, and you were playing Gary Payton, you were playing Drew Eubanks, you're playing, the bench guys, the role players in this game, and they, Dame's excellence carried the Blazers, right? Like, he was magnificent, and they won the game because he is so freaking good. But like, this was if this wasn't their best win of the season, this is their second best win of the season. This is right up there in the absolutely most rewarding, most fun games they have played. Let's talk more about it, shall we? Let's keep chatting about how fun this freaking game was. I want to talk about the final 3 minutes, and I want to talk some. This road win was a long time coming. It had been a while since Blazers won on the road. But before we talk all about how long it's been since they've won on the road, before we talk about the final 3 minutes, I want to tell you that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Look. You might love apps at your Super Bowl parties. You got your potato skins and your chicken wings and all that, but the only app you need at the Super Bowl this year is FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Super excited about the new sports betting partner for Locked On. They're the #1 sportsbook in America, and if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. Download the FanDuel app, and you can bet on Super Bowl 57 with a no-sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel lets you bet on everything from the money line to point spreads to who will score a touchdown. Plus, the FanDuel Sportsbook app is safe, secure, and super easy to use. And best of all, you get paid instantly when you win. So join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/lockedon to claim your no sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right. Best win of the season, second best win of the season, just a truly fun basketball game that's worth celebrating. This was a fun game because Damian Lillard is on a heater right now. Like this is Dame saying, "Hey, I'm still one of the very good ones." You may have seen him in a recent ranking on a popular sports and pop culture website where he was not ranked in the top 15 players in the league. He's been pretty good recently. He's been pretty good recently, even if a popular website, a popular news sports and pop culture outlet doesn't think he's one of the 15 best players in the league. Damian Lillard's been pretty good. And he was great in this one, and he carried them home when they needed it. And it was the second game in a row after the Blazers had lost 9 consecutive games that went to clutch time, as the NBA defines it. Those are games that are within 5 points in the final 5 minutes. You know, they beat the Hawks without Trae Young, and they kind of like stumbled into clutch time, right? Like they were winning. They let the shorthanded Hawks come back, tie the game, take the lead, and we're like, no, we're going to win. And it felt like, okay, well, at least like they kind of figured some stuff out. Dame was good. Anthony Simons hit a big 3, and it's like the offense didn't stall out when they needed to score down the stretch. And it's like, okay, that's they needed to get the monkey off your back, you got to win the first one sometime, and then you can't start stacking a win streak until you win one. But this was a different game, right? This was a game that they came back in. In fact, they were down 97-90 with 9:37 left when they let Desmond Bane go right to the rim uncontested for a layup, just like parting the Red Seas. Come on in, easy bucket for Moses Bane there, and they play really well. Like if from that point forward, 9.5 minutes left on the road in Memphis, down 7, give up an easy layup. If they lose, I'm not killing them on the pod. Like, first of all, it's like, that's a tough game, tough opponent, all those things. But in addition, just like they had played really well. And if they ran out of gas, as shorthanded as they were in the final, after 42 good minutes or whatever that is, 39 and some change good minutes, like, yeah, I'm not going to, sure. It's just like you're going to say, yeah, hey, they played really well, and then like they're sort of the realities of who they had available caught up with them. That's not what happened. They hung with it. Basically, right after that bucket, Damian Lillard came back in the game. He ended up playing 40 minutes. I kind of just like haven't mentioned this, but I'll mention it now in passing. I don't know if it's particularly important. Chauncey Billups has tried the last couple games subbing Dame out earlier in the first quarter. He's only playing the first 6 minutes, and then he comes back. But in the second quarter, it allows him to, he comes back at like the 2-minute mark of the first quarter. Ant leaves after playing the first 10 minutes, and then Dame would sub out at like with 7 minutes to go in the half, and then get another little 2-minute rest. But Chauncey, when he did that against the Hawks, he didn't do the second half rest for Dame. He just played the final 14 minutes. And in this game, Dame was killing it in the third quarter, so he played the whole third. I don't think the rotation stuff is super important, but like this is new. Chauncey has been, over the last, I'd say 3.5 weeks, tinkering with how he subs Dame out. He's been changing his sub pattern for sure, but he hasn't been consistent with it because just the team hasn't been very good. And some nights you just he's got to ride. There isn't like a clear-cut thing, but I will say subbing Dame out halfway through the first quarter is new and something to keep an eye on. I don't know, something nerds would ask about if in a post-game press conference type of thing or off-day type of thing. Shout out to my nerds. But Dame comes back right there at the 9-minute mark, down 7, and it's like, okay, we're not going to go away, and the Blazers just really hung with them. In fact, just ahead of just under 4 minutes to go, Gary Payton gets an awesome chase down block from behind. It's like a fast break layup for Brandon Clark, and Gary Payton gets up there, blocks him at the rim, and it wasn't Brandon Clark, but it's that was later on in the game. But Payton, regardless, whoever it was, Payton blocks him at the rim. Awesome chase down block that springs a fast break. Damian Lillard gets out, finds Drew Eubanks in like semi-transition, and Drew gets a dunk, and the Blazers take the lead with just under 3.5 minutes left. Josh scores, and the Blazers take a use it or lose it timeout at 3:01. Like Chauncey Billups says, you can only take 2 timeouts in the final 3 minutes. He uses that timeout right at the 3-minute mark. Says, okay, we're down 1. Let's go get it. And Damian Lillard goes and gets it. Hits back-to-back really tough threes. One of them on the move in the corner off a feed from Drew Eubanks, like a handoff from Drew Eubanks. He's just really good. He hits back-to-back threes. In the middle there, Brandon Clark scores. So the Blazers, come up 2 right out of the timeout. Then Brandon Clark scores, and they go up 3 after it was a tie ball game because Dame hits back-to-back really, really impressive shots. Anthony Simons gets into the paint, and Ja Morant blocks his like high banking lob attempt or layup attempt. I think it was a goaltend. Like it looked like a goaltend on the replay, but live I thought it was a clean block. I think they did get the call right when they when they called it. That puts the Blazers up 5 with like just over a minute to go. They were down 7 with 9.5 minutes in this game. Now they're up 5 with a minute to go. What a crazy, awesome 8 minutes and a really chaotic final 3 minutes with a chase down block and the ball going the other way and the goaltend reviews and some offensive rebounds that Memphis couldn't convert on. Then Jaren Jackson Jr. gets a good look at a 3 with a minute left, misses it. Brandon Clark gets the rebound. Damian Lillard swats the putback attempt. The Blazers get out the other way, and Drew Eubanks fast break dunk to put the Blazers up 7. He tumbles into the crowd as he dunks. It's his birthday. Shout out to the Shack of Troutdale for a birthday bucket. And the Blazers are up 7 with a minute left, and they just make their free throws from there and hold on. What a freaking ball game. This is like, I talked about in the you listened about. I use the royal we too much here when talking about myself, particularly for someone who makes fun of the collective pronoun we. But I talked about on the game against the Hawks how the Blazers, like, kind of the secret to their offense secret to winning in the clutch was the offense just went fast. Dame just went fast. He said, okay, like, spread the floor. I don't need a pick. I'm just going to blow by my man and like dare them to help. The first time he blew right by. The second time they helped off Ant. He made the right read, easy bucket. Like, they didn't wait. They didn't play prevent offense. They went quickly. In this game, they won the game with defense. A Payton block with 3 minutes left. The Damian Lillard block with a minute left. Dame hits a couple magical shots in there, but like, they got enough stops when they needed them. Dame was incredibly special, and they made 2 really, really big defensive plays, and it changed the game. They had won them the game. More than changed the game, it won them the game. They were so darn good, and it snaps an 8-game losing streak. The Blazers had not won on the road since December 17th when they beat the Houston Rockets 107-95 in Houston. 8 games later, they still hadn't won. They lost every game on the road in January that they found. They lose twice in OKC. That's the Damian Lillard breaks the scoring record. They come out, say, okay, we lost in OKC, but we're going to bounce back. They lose again in OKC. They lose in Denver. They lose against Golden State, coming like on a meltdown in the final few minutes. They lose to Minnesota on the road. They lose to Indiana where they miss their final 13 shots. They lose to Toronto. They lose to Denver again. Whew. And so heading into this game, it's like, you know what? It gets easier. Washington and Chicago after this. There's some winnable games. Maybe they can get right, but this is a tough one. And they go in and win. The Blazers hadn't beaten a team with a winning record on the road since they beat Utah. At the time, 14-12, December 3rd. December 3rd. Dame wasn't even healthy. This was before he was back from his injury. Like, yeah, it just had been so long. So this is like a true, real deal Holyfield, hold on to your joy moment. This was a special game, a fun game, a game that they won at crunch time, a game they came back to win, and a game that they won because the guys at the end of the bench played so dang well. And they got me thinking, this has maybe not an impact, but I think it changes my personal perception as we creep closer to the deadline, a week away from the trade deadline. Let's talk about that to close the show. But before we do that, I want to tell you that today's show brought to you by PrizePicks. It's daily fantasy made easy. I play PrizePicks on the app, and I play basketball. Here's how it works. I pick between 2 and 6 players. I'm picking points, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals. PrizePicks sets the line, and I go above or below that line. You don't have to play basketball. You can play the other sports, but however it is, you can, once you set your entry, make your entry, which you can do quickly in under 60 seconds, and you can make as many entries as you want in a day. You also set your own odds. So you can say, I'm feeling lucky. I'm going to get 6 out of 6. You can feel less confident. You can say, I'm getting 4 out of 6. Or you can say, I don't like 6 of these lines today. I'm picking 3 and I'm going to get all of them right. Or I'm going to get 2 out of 3. You can choose your odds. You can choose your wager. You can choose the lines. And it's just you versus PrizePicks projections. Plus, right now, new users can sign up today at PrizePicks.com or when they download the app and use the promo code LOCKEDON and get a 100% deposit match up to $100. That means you put in $100, PrizePicks is going to match you $100. You put in $50, PrizePicks is going to match you $50. So don't forget, put in that promo code LOCKEDON when you sign up and take advantage of that 100% instant deposit match. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You are still listening to Locked On Blazers. Okay, I think typically heading into the All-Star break, the last handful of games before the All-Star break, last little stretch before you really get there, there typically is particularly for teams like in that Blazers range. I've seen the Blazers do this a lot of different times, but typically there is. You win a game, a tough game on the road, or a tough, an opponent that is good and you shouldn't have won, and it starts to be like, we can't break this team up. We got to hold these dudes together. It works. It really works. Like you saw it. They beat Ja. They beat Jaren. They beat Des Bane. It doesn't matter if they didn't have Steven Adams. They won. We can't trade Rodney Hood. You can't trade Wade Baldwin. He's part of the future. Like it is inevitable that happens. I do not know who that character was, y'all. I do not know who that character who loves Wade Baldwin is, but they love Wade Baldwin. Wade Baldwin the fourth. He could be the point guard we need, the bulldog playing defense that we need. He's a perfect guy. Stotts can't coach defense. This guy plays defense. Okay, sorry, that character's. I'm gonna retire that character forever, but I had to bring it back. It's late at night. Let me have a little fun. Typically, there are these games that feel like often, I would say usually every year, there's one of these games that it's like, okay, this works. You don't actually need a trade. You do like this is fine. This makes sense. You're good. It's cool. Like I'm happy with the way this looks. I bet you are too. It's all gonna work out just fine. This was the reverse of that. This was a game where Jusuf Nurkic is out of the lineup. I don't think there's like a Jerami Grant trade coming down the pipeline or whatever next week. I think he's going to end up signing a big old multi-year contract to stay here. But, you finish the game with Dame and Ant and Josh Hart and Gary Payton and Drew Eubanks on the floor. And it's like, yeah, they should try something different. The thing they've been doing all year long, why would they keep trying it? Because they did something totally weird And it like totally different. They were forced, their hand was forced and it worked. And they beat a really good team and got one of their best wins. They can make a trade. It's fine. Like there is, I don't mean to say like this is proof the Blazers don't need Jusuf Nurkic, because if Steven Adams plays in this game, Drew Eubanks is not going to look as good as he did. He's going to get shoved around. They're going to get killed on the glass. The Memphis Grizzlies are the best offensive rebounding team in the league, and they're the best offensive rebounding team in the league because Steven Adams is not only the best offensive rebounder by the books, he's the best box out guy in the game. Like he just is a monster on the glass. His teams over the last 10 years, 9 out of the last 10, your boy Steven Adams teams have led the league in offensive rebounding. Like if he's in the game, Drew Eubanks, his sleight of frame gets exposed a little bit. I don't mean to say this is like proof the Blazers don't need Jusuf Nurkic, but it is proof that on some nights they don't need Jusuf Nurkic. Like it means to me, and I don't know if they're gonna be able to trade Nurk. I don't know if there's a suitor for Nurk, and I don't think they should dump Nurk for nothing, right? Like I'm not. That's not me. What I believe is that the assets they do have to trade. Josh Hart, who seems almost certainly headed for free agency, and the Blazers, because of their salary situation, are unlikely to sign him. I think you got to trade him for something. And if they can move Jusuf Nurkic for a part that works, I'm in favor of that as well. But I think what this game clarified for me, or made me feel, I don't know if it clarified is probably too strong of a word, how it maybe changed my perspective a little bit, is that I don't think necessarily you have to trade Nurk for a starting level center. I've said that in the past, and I think this, my opinion, has changed a little bit, is like address that need down the line if you can trade Nurk for any rotation level player who's for sure going to be one of your 7 best players next year. You trade for a guy who's going to be on the roster next year and is guaranteed, regardless of what you do to the roster, to be one of your 7 best players, and you can deal Nurk for that entity. Do it, right? Like I'm in favor of it. Same with Josh Hart. Like it's less positional need because the Blazers just won a game playing the funkiest, weirdest lineup against, again, like Memphis played stupid down the stretch. They made some dumb plays. They committed a 5-second violation. They were a mess. They clearly had an advantage with Jaren Jackson Jr. He scored twice in the final 6 minutes, and they just like stopped getting him the ball. He didn't get enough touches late, and then he did get a touch, but he took a 3 and didn't drive it where he had been a lot better. When all types of stuff. You can't always just drive to the rim, but like whatever. Regardless, like I think instead of being like the game where this is like you got to hold on to Wade Baldwin Jr. at all costs, like you can't, if you trade Mo Harkless, what are you going to do or whatever? How can they deal Myers Leonard? It's like, it's the opposite. I feel the opposite. I feel like this team kind of stumbled their way into what I thought they'd be all year. If you go back and listen to early episodes at the beginning of the season, I thought they were going to play funky, weird, small lineups with Josh Hart and Gary Payton playing the forward spots a lot more often. They kind of mistaked into it out of necessity tonight. I thought Trent Watford was going to be straight up the backup center and Drew Eubanks wasn't going to play. Trent Watford played a ton of backup center minutes tonight, and it worked. His dribble handoff game, his little float game, I thought his passing, he had one really bad turnover, but I thought his passing was really useful in this game. Like, Gary Payton played 30 minutes and was really, really effective. Like some of the little, the pieces that maybe we've been waiting to see, and the Payton stuff, it's like he missed the first half of the season. What are you going to do? But like some of the stuff we've been waiting to see, they had to do it now out of necessity. And if a trade comes and Nasir Little didn't really play very much in this game. If a trade comes and Josh and Nas and Nurk are out the window and you get back like some other parts, even if they're weird, I feel like after watching this game, it's like, sure, go for it. They've really been scuffling otherwise. I don't think they're making like a deep run in the playoffs, and this game hasn't sort of changed my opinion. What changed my opinion is like, yeah, funky might work because Dame's that good. and what I think my eyes have shifted like deeper on the horizon after this game is like, instead of saying, okay, well, they got to do this and this because they need to improve these parts, is like, who cares about the parts? Ride Damian Lillard's specialness, play hard on defense, trust why you signed Gary Payton to do weird stuff, and say, yeah, he's 6'2", but man, he's useful, and understand that are some nights, if Steven Adams is the game, you're going to get bullied, but like they've been getting bullied anyways with the roster they have. So this changed my opinion too, as just like, they can not like tear it all down or whatever, like go skeleton crew, but just the fact that there is a future where they make trades thinking about the long term and not the near term fit, to say, let's maximize overall talent and not worry about fit now. We'll straighten out fit in the summer when we have more assets to trade and all those things. But like, let's think specifically maximum useful return. I think that has to be the approach. And I think that's maybe the way that my perspective has shifted. It's like, I'm not worried about positional size. I'm not worried about, I think it's like, I still think they need to get bigger and need to get shooting. Like those two things would be really useful to add. And if you can find those, go get them. But you don't necessarily need to find a starting center. You don't necessarily need to find X and X forward. If you get, if you get two bigs that work, if you get a guy who's just a 4 and can't play any 3, that's fine too. Like get, am I talking about Jared Vanderbilt? It's like get players that can contribute and worry about like holistic fit in October, because funky, weird stuff worked, and the Blazers should embrace the fact, that they can be okay, that Drew Eubanks can hold down the fort a little bit, right? And Gary Payton can hold down the fort a little bit. And they hadn't been very good before this, so why hold on to what wasn't really working? Just go for it. I think my perspective has shifted. Maybe like with the understanding like that they also might still be bad. But I think I've come around. I think I've come around. I was leaning this way maybe earlier this week if you listen to shows, but I think I fully leaned in. I think I fully moved to this side of the canoe, and it's just like, make some moves and prioritize getting players that can help for the future. Fit in the near term, be damned. That is going to do it for today's show. Come back for Friday's show. I've been working hard on it on an interview this week. I'm not sure it's going to come Friday. If not, we'll have 2 interviews next week. It's going to be a whole bunch of fun. We're a week out from the trade deadline. We will talk trade deadline stuff and look ahead to Blazers 2 games over the weekend, Friday and Saturday in Washington and Chicago. Join me there, won't you? I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.